Howdy y'all, it's Ryan from RNA Music. We're going to continue our video on Iron Man by Black Sabbath. In part one, we covered almost all of the rhythm parts, the riffs, except for the outro riff. We did not cover the first or second solo, so that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to break down the first guitar solo in Iron Man by Black Sabbath. I'm going to show it to you the way I play it, which I try to get pretty close to the way Tony does it. A couple of interesting things I've noticed about Tony is if you watch live videos of Black Sabbath playing their music, he doesn't tend to play the solos the same. I drove myself nuts learning this one, trying to play it just like the album version, the recorded version, and then I watched some live videos because I like to double check things live. And I was like, man, it played it completely different. Bear in mind that if you go see Black Sabbath live, or you had an opportunity to see them live, he didn't necessarily play the same solos live, as the record. He might play the first lick the same, or the outro, when he's finishing it up. The outro part to get into the next part of the song. But I was like, oh, well, dang, he kind of does his own thing when he plays live. He's Tony Iommi. He can do what he wants. But this is kind of covering the album version. So I'm going to break it down very slowly, one kind of phrase or lick at a time. I'm not necessarily going to call out all of the frets numbers, but maybe I will. So let's get into it. Now, number one, you want to be very comfortable with your pentatonic scale, position 1. So we're doing essentially the C sharp minor pentatonic scale, 9th fret. There's your C sharp. So the pentatonic pattern he's using almost the whole thing is just we would call that, box 1 of the C sharp minor pentatonic. That's the bulk of the solo. Now he is using a little bit of what we would call box 5. The opening of the solo is using box 5, 7th fret, 9th fret on the E string and the A string. So a little bit of box 5, and then he slides into box 1. So he's drawing a little bit from this box. If you don't know your pentatonic scale shapes, I would suggest going and refreshing or learning your pentatonic scale positions on the guitar. The better you can play your pentatonic scales or your major and minor scales, the better you know your scales, the easier it is to learn solos. In my experience, it definitely helped me, being able to learn solos after I'd done my homework on my scales. But anyways, let's go on to the very first phrase, the very first lick. It starts on the 7th fret. It's in this 5th box, box 5. And it's just on the bottom 2 strings, your E string and your A string. It's just that, 7, 9, 7, 9. Those 4 notes. Now what he does is interesting. He goes, that's the order. We got some pull-offs, we got some hammer-ons. So he opens it in that box 5 position. Most of the notes are on your A string. 7, 9, 7, 7, 9, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9. practice that. Something that helped me learning solos was just to break it down into each little bite-size fragment, each one lick at a time. And I would just practice. For me, I would just practice that one lick a million times. Maybe I couldn't do it full speed yet. I would do it half speed, 1/4 speed, 60% speed, just. And just play it 50 times in a row. I mean, just to get it down, the correct order and rhythm of the lick. And then I move on to the next one. Now the next one is interesting because this is where he positions, transitions, slides into the actual box 1 of the C sharp minor pentatonic. So the first phrase ends on this 9th fret A string. The first note of the next phrase starts with that same note, so you have 2 9s in a row. And I'm sliding. To the 11 on the A string, and then 9 9 9 9 9 9 11 on the D string, 9 on the G string, back to the 11 on the D, third finger on the 9 of the A string, slide to 11. So same thing, each little lick and each little phrase, don't be afraid to just sit and just repeat it. I mean, relentlessly, because you want to get it in your muscle memory and to where you can eventually play through it without thinking too hard and just let the muscle memory do its job. So that's the first lick. I consider that the first lick. Second lick is when you slide into box 1. Okay. The third phrase starts on the 11 of the D string. We're going to pull off to the 9, to the 11 on the A string, 9 on the G string, It's really kind of the second half of that second lick, but I like to split them into 2 different phrases for the sake of just making it a little simpler to get bite-sized pieces. Lick 3. It's all on your A, D, and G string. This lick is all on those 3 strings. So if we put that with the first 2 licks, In the next phrase, we got some bendy bends going on. So 1, 2, 3, fourth phrase, starting on the G string, 9th fret. This is gonna be 9, 11 to the double nines. For the most part, it's just on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd string, a little bit of the 4th string. 9th fret on the G string to the 11, then an 11 bend. Double nines. To 9 pull off. Now I'm using my pinky. Nine to 11. 11 bend to double nines. 12 to 9 pull off. Landing on the 11 of the G string. This little rolly thing, 9 on the 2nd string, B string, to 9 on the G string. That bend always got me because he's going 9 on the B string to 9 on the G string. Then a little bend. Back to the 11 on the D string. That lick, that's the first, probably really tricky one, I think. Lots of bends. He has a lot of bendings. Bends, slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, all the techniques being used in the solo. So I'm going to get familiar with those. 11, 9. 9, 11. Next phrase is getting a little faster, a little busier. It does a lot of this Chuck Berry thing. It's very classic blues guitar kind of stuff here. So this next lick, 9 to 11. Full step bend. 9 on the first string. Pull off. 12 to 9 pull off. 11 to 9 pull off on the G string. Back to the B 9 string. B string 9th fret. That's the lick. We're going 12 to 9. 11 to 9, back to the 9 on the second string. Now, what I'm doing is I'm barring the top 3 strings. G, B, and E string with flattened first finger. Right, I'm just leaving this first finger down to cover those notes. So all I'm really having to do is move my pinky and my ring finger. So economy, right? Doing this little kind of a mini bar chord helps me get those faster licks in there. Okay. And the final thing is we're going to do a double 12 with the ring finger on the E string and B string and bend it. Taking these double 12s and bending them both, which gets you a cool matrix kind of sound. So. I like to end that one there. Play it as many times as you need to get all the nuances, the bends, the pull-offs. This one's kind of fast, so definitely gonna have to spend some time on just this one lick. Just play it over and over. Now he plays it pretty fast. I mean, it's a pretty quick, it's a pretty quick lick. But when I learned it crazy slow. I just played it really slow, made sure I got all the right notes in the right order and the right techniques, and then just, you know, tons of repetition. With the repetition came the speed later on. Okay. This next lick, I like this one. It's got a lot of bends. It's predominantly just on the ninth fret and 12th fret on your top two strings, the B string and the E string. So starting on 9 on the first string, 12, 2 9s, 12 again. Then we bend up a whole step, and then we return. We got a 12 that we bend up, we return it, bend it. So you're gonna bend it up a whole step and then stop it, either with the side of your thumb or however you want to mute that. And then we come back to our starting point on the 12. Bend it up and return it and pick it. There's that little 12 bend return twice. I like that. Then 12 to 9 pull up. Now, if you're struggling with your bends, some of you may have amazing bends. You might be great at it. If bending is tricky for you, some of my tips is to what I call reinforced bends, right? So I'm bending this 12 on the B string, but what I'm doing is I'm putting my second finger and my first finger, all three of those fingers are on that second string. I'm hooking my thumb over the top to give me some leverage. So when I'm doing that bend, it's not just that one finger. I see a lot of new players, they try to bend with one finger, and that's really tricky to do. You end up overshooting or usually undershooting. They undershoot the note. But bring in, as I tell the young kids, it's like a tug of war. The more people you have on this side of the rope, and each finger is a person, if each one of these fingers is pushing that string, it's a little easier to bend and a little easier to control, for sure. don't move on to the next phrase or lick until you feel really comfortable with this newest lick you've learned. It doesn't have to be perfect, and doesn't have to be full speed, but you do want to be pretty comfortable with it before you go to the next one. Most of us are in way too much of a hurry to get through all of them and try to play the whole solo, but it's like, again, do you want to play it, pretty cleanly, or do you want to play it not so great? I love that. All right, next lick. It's a pretty busy one. We're almost there. I mean, we're almost to the end here. It's pretty repetitive. I mean, it's some classic bluesy stuff here. So we're going to bend that 12 on the B string. Hit that 9 on the E string. 12 to 9 pull off. To the 11 on the G string. Now, whether you use your pinky and your ring finger or your ring finger and your middle finger, it doesn't really matter. Whatever fingers you want to use is fine with me. It just depends on the day which fingers I'll use on that. So 12 to the 9 on the first string, 12, 9 pull off on the second string, 11 on the G string, back to the 9 on the second string, 9 first string, 12, 9 second string, 11 on the G string. Make a little exercise out of that. Da 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 da. Doesn't matter on the fingers, just whatever fingerings you choose, try to do that the same every time. I'm mixing them up right now. I'm switching between them because I can't really remember which ones I use when I play it fast. But just pick a fingering choice and stick to it. The next half of this lick, they're kind of run together. It's going to be very similar rhythmically. We're going to switch to the G string 11. 11 pull off 9 to 11 on the D string. Back to the G 9 9. Kind of repeats it. And then we're to the end. D string 9 and 11 hammers. Okay, so we've kind of, as soon as we get to this part, kind of in the home stretch, right? Because the next part is the riffs that we learned in part 1. Right, so by the time I get to these last couple of licks, I'm like, home stretch. Yay, thank you, Jesus. We made it to the end here. Two 9s, and then to the hammer-on part. So that whole ending section is really one big lick, but I kind of split it into 3 mini licks for working it out, or to have students practice. This is just one giant like run-on sentence of licks, but I think it's really useful to break it into small bite-sized pieces and practice those bite-sized pieces. And then you put it together like a puzzle or like a Lego set or whatever. So here we go. Done. That's the solo broken into its little pieces. Someone left a comment on one of the other videos that they didn't really need to know the strings and the frets and the names of the notes. They just needed to see it and hear it played, you know, slowly, and they could kind of figure it out by watching. And I think that's a really good way to do it. If you have the tablature, like I have some tab for the, I didn't make the tab, but you can find tablature for the solo, and I think it's pretty accurate. I would say I don't play it at 100% like the tab. Tony clearly doesn't play it 100% like the tab. I get the feeling Tony is one of those guys who's just a good improviser. He just can improvise bluesy, rocky solos on the moment. So I feel like when he probably recorded this, so this was just going for it. It wasn't sat out and composed. He was just jamming, which is probably why live he tends to kind of do the same thing. It's not always the same solo every single time, which is amazing. Try the whole solo straight through, medium speed. Play along. This will probably get me copyright problems. This will probably be copyright problems, but let me pull up the track and play along to the actual track. Iron Man. It's pretty fast. That was kind of sloppy, but it's pretty fast. But you know, when I first learned it, I could practice that a few more times and run that up and polish that up a little bit. It's pretty quick at full speed. It's pretty fast going through those licks. But when I learned it the first time, I didn't attempt to go full speed at all for quite a while. I tried to play each lick as precisely as I could at 1/4 speed, and then up to half speed, and then 60% speed, and then 70% speed, and then 75%, 80, 85%, 90, 95. To me, the hardest part was going from about 90% speed, 90, 95% to 100%. Actually was the trickiest spot. Learning it at really, really slow speed wasn't too terrible. If you're already used to doing bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides and those things like that, and you're pretty familiar with your scale shapes, if bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs are new to you and leads in general are new to you, then it may take you a while to get a handle on those techniques. If you've already learned a bunch of solos and you're a reasonably accomplished lead guitar player, really this shouldn't be a problem. It's basically 95% box 1 minor pentatonic. Pretty cool lick though. I learned a lot going through this and trying to learn it like the record. It was a very educational experience for me, and I think it helps me, it stretched me, it made me better, and I appreciate that. So if this video, I know it's kind of long, and this is pretty long actually to just cover the solo. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please subscribe. If you don't want to learn the rhythm parts, go back to part 1 of this video, part 1. previous video, we go over the riffs and rhythm parts. Needed a whole solo. We needed a whole video dedicated just to this first solo. Stay tuned for part 3 where we'll talk about the outro riffs and the outro solo. And then you'll be able to play Iron Man along with the recording. I recommend going into YouTube and plugging standard tuning because the album version is slightly out of tune. If you want to practice along and not have to fiddle with your guitar tuning too much, pull up. There's a standard. Somebody's gone in and kind of retuned the track so it's in normal standard tuning. All right. If you enjoyed that, please let me know. If you found that useful, please let me know in a comment down below. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep the music alive. The music needs you. We need the music. We need to keep it alive for the next generation. So excited. Black Sabbath is such a great band. Tony Iommi, such a great guitar player. I respect him so much, and it's been a real pleasure attempting to learn some of their music and play it as close as I can personally to Tony's style. He's great. All right, bye.